In the desolate reaches of the Imperium, on a forsaken planet cloaked in perpetual darkness, a lone space marine, clad in twisted, barbed armor, stalked the ruins of a once thriving city. His name had long been forgotten, replaced only by the echoes of fear that accompanied his presence. Zeno's blood dripped from his chainsword, a brutal relic forged in the darkest corners of the Mechanicum's laboratories. The planet had fallen victim to a relentless Tyranid invasion, and the Space Marine, driven by unyielding hatred for all alien life, stood as the last defender. The air was thick with the stench of decay as the lone warrior moved through the ruins. Shadows danced eerily along the broken walls, distorted by the glow of distant fires. Amidst the ruins, a group of desperate survivors huddled together, their eyes wide with terror. Without a word, the Space Marine raised his chainsword, the weapon roaring to life with a guttural growl. He descended upon the survivors, a brutal embodiment of the Imperium's merciless xenophobia. Limbs were severed, and desperate pleas were drowned out by the cacophony of violence. As the last survivor fell, the Space Marine's Vox unit crackled to life. A chilling message echoed through the ruins: the Tyranids were advancing. The lone warrior's helmet hid any trace of emotion, but the twisted satisfaction gleamed in his eyes. With the city now silent, the lone Space Marine embraced the grim dark reality of the universe. The echoes of his chainsword's brutal symphony resonated through the desolation, a testament to the merciless nature of survival in the 41st millennium. And as he turned to face the oncoming swarm of Tyranids, the twisted warrior relished in the violent dance that awaited, a lone harbinger of the Imperium's ruthless might. In the chaotic battleground of Kefals, the unseasoned Space Marine adorned in vibrant Mk7 power armor, colored in the transgender flag hues, found herself overwhelmed by the nightmarish Tyranid swarm. Her lack of experience became painfully apparent as she cowered amidst the ruthless onslaught. Sensing her vulnerability, the Xenos closed in with merciless intent. Kefals, once a symbol of defiance, now begged for mercy, her pleas stark against the relentless violence surrounding her. Her once bold demeanor shattered, replaced by a pitiful plea for survival. The twisted warrior, consumed by rage at her cowardice, observed as Kefals, her rainbow banner now tattered and blood-streaked, frantically begged for reprieve. The battlefield echoed with her cries, each plea a testament to the harsh realities of the universe. With a seething fury burning within him, the twisted warrior raised his chainsword, its growl drowning out Kefal's desperate pleas. In a fit of rage, he delivered a swift, merciless strike, silencing her cries with brutal finality. As Kefals fell to the ground, the twisted marine kicked her lifeless form and screamed Troon in a venomous outburst of disdain. The battlefield bore witness to this cruel act, a grim reminder of the unforgiving nature of the universe. With his anger still smoldering, the twisted warrior resumed his ruthless advance, fueled by a mix of hatred and contempt. In the grim dark tapestry of the Warhammer 40K universe, where brutality and fear reigned supreme, he pressed forward, a lone executor of the Imperium's merciless might. As the twisted warrior stood over Kefals, looking down in disgust, eruptions across the battlefield alerted him to the looming threat of a massive swarm of Tyranids. Without hesitation, he turned to face the oncoming horde, his chainsword roaring to life in anticipation of the imminent battle. Hive tyrants, gene stealers, and countless bioforms charged towards him with relentless fury, their chitinous forms moving in a nightmarish symphony of destruction. The twisted warrior, fueled by a mixture of rage and determination, braced himself for the onslaught. With calculated precision, he swung his chainsword in sweeping arcs, carving through the Xenos with brutal efficiency. Each strike was met with a spray of ichor as he fought tooth and nail against the tide of enemies. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the twisted warrior refused to yield, his resolve unyielding in the face of adversity. With every foe he felled, the battlefield echoed with the screams of the dying, a grim testament to his unwavering determination. As the battle raged on, the twisted warrior became a whirlwind of death and destruction, his every movement a testament to the merciless might of the Imperium. Amidst the chaos of combat, he stood as a lone beacon of defiance, a grim reminder to the Tyranids that in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, even the mightiest of foes would fall before the relentless onslaught of the Imperium. The ground trembled beneath his feet as hive tyrants swooped down from the darkened skies, their massive forms casting ominous shadows across the battlefield. With a primal roar, the twisted warrior leaped into the fray, meeting the monstrous creatures head-on. Claws clashed against ceramite as the twisted warrior engaged in a deadly dance with the hive tyrants, his chain sword whirring with deadly intent. With each blow, he carved deep gouges into their armored hides, pushing back against the relentless assault. But the hive tyrants were relentless, their sheer size and strength proving to be formidable adversaries. As their talons raked across his armor, leaving deep gouges in their wake, the twisted warrior gritted his teeth, his determination unwavering even in the face of overwhelming odds. With a mighty effort, he unleashed a barrage of blows upon the nearest hive tyrant, driving his chain sword deep into its flesh with a deafening roar. The creature's agonized shriek reverberated through the battlefield as it collapsed to the ground, lifeless. But even as one foe fell, more emerged to take its place, their numbers seemingly endless. With grim determination, the twisted warrior fought on, his every movement a testament to his unwavering dedication to the Emperor and the Imperium. And as the battle raged on, the twisted warrior became a symbol of defiance amidst the chaos, his indomitable spirit shining bright even in the darkest of times. For in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there was only war, and the twisted warrior would stop at nothing to ensure the victory of humanity over the forces of darkness. Amidst the relentless chaos of the battlefield, the twisted space marine, his armor marred by the blood and viscera of countless foes, stood alone against the towering monstrosity of the Bio-Titan. With grim determination etched upon his features, he raised his vox, sending out a desperate call for reinforcements, his voice cutting through the cacophony of battle like a clarion call in the darkness. The sky darkened as dozens of drop pods hurtled towards the planet's surface, each leaving a fiery trail in its wake as it descended. The ground quaked with the force of their impact, several of them crashing into the massive form of the Bio-Titan, causing it to stagger momentarily, its enraged roar echoing across the battlefield. As the smoke cleared, the sides of the drop pods fell away, revealing Marines clad in vibrant armor, devoid of the gore that coated the lone warrior. Each bore the squad emblem, 5 stars in a row, 1 star only in outline on the rightmost end, a symbol of their unit's valor and sacrifice. Among them, 2 Marines rushed forward to aid their fallen comrade. Karl, a towering figure with a grim expression etched upon his features, and Doomer, his eyes ablaze with determination. They wasted no time in rushing to the twisted Marine's side, Karl offering support while Doomer handed him 3 magazines of bolter ammo, their silent gestures of solidarity speaking volumes amidst the chaos of battle. "Where are the rest of the Sweety Squad that went down with you?" Doomer asked, his voice laced with concern. The twisted Marine's gaze darkened momentarily, a flicker of pain crossing his features before he replied solemnly, "They serve the Emperor in death as they did in life," his words a grim reminder of the sacrifices made in service to the Imperium. As the reinforcements joined the twisted warrior in the fight against the Bio-Titan, the battlefield erupted into a frenzy of violence and bloodshed. Bolters roared to life as the Marines unleashed a torrent of firepower upon the monstrous creature, their shots finding their mark amidst the swirling chaos of battle. But the Bio-Titan proved to be a formidable adversary, its massive claws and bioweapons tearing through the ranks of the Imperium's defenders with terrifying ease. Limbs were torn asunder, and blood sprayed across the battlefield as the Marines fought desperately to hold their ground against the relentless onslaught. With each passing moment, the Bio-Titan's fury grew, its attacks becoming more frenzied and deadly. But the Marines, bolstered by their unwavering resolve and determination, refused to yield. For in the grim darkness of the far future, there was only war, and they would fight to their last breath to defend humanity against the horrors that sought to consume them. As the Sweety Squad launched themselves into the fray against the towering Bio-Titan, the battlefield erupted into a symphony of violence and chaos. Bolters thundered as the Marines unleashed a relentless barrage of firepower upon the monstrous creature, their shots finding purchase amidst the twisted flesh of their foe. But the Bio-Titan proved to be a formidable adversary, its massive form shrugging off the hail of bullets with terrifying ease. With each swing of its colossal claws, it tore through the ranks of the Imperium's defenders, leaving a trail of mangled bodies and shattered armor in its wake. Despite their valiant efforts, several members of the Sweety Squad fell beneath the Bio-Titan's relentless assault, their screams of agony drowned out by the din of battle. Limbs were torn asunder, and blood sprayed across the battlefield as the Marines fought desperately to hold their ground against the overwhelming onslaught. The twisted Marine watched in awe as his comrades fell, a sense of helplessness washing over him as exhaustion threatened to overwhelm his battered form. His legs refused to move, weighed down by the sheer exhaustion of battle, but his spirit burned with a fierce determination to see the fight through to the end. With a grim resolve, he reached for the blessed ammo that Doomer had handed him, loading his bolter with grim determination. Joining Carl and Doomer in laying down long-range fire, he unleashed a torrent of bolts upon the Bio-Titan, each shot finding its mark amidst the creature's twisted flesh. But still, the Bio-Titan persisted, its monstrous form seemingly impervious to their combined firepower. With each passing moment, the battle seemed more and more hopeless, the odds stacked against them in a seemingly insurmountable tide of carnage and despair. But even in the face of overwhelming odds, the twisted Marine refused to yield. Drawing upon every last ounce of strength and resolve, he continued to fight alongside his comrades, his every shot a testament to his unwavering determination to see the Emperor's enemies vanquished. As the battle raged on, the twisted Marine and his comrades became locked in a desperate struggle for survival, their every movement a grim dance of death amidst the chaos of war. Limbs were severed, and blood flowed freely as they fought tooth and nail to hold their ground against the relentless onslaught of the Bio-Titan. But even as the odds seemed insurmountable, the twisted Marine and his comrades fought on, their spirits undimmed by the horrors they faced. For in the grim darkness of the far future, there was only war, and they would fight to their last breath to defend humanity against the horrors that sought to consume them. As the battle raged on and the relentless assault of the Bio-Titan continued unabated, Doomer found himself running dangerously low on ammo. With each pull of the trigger, the clicks of his bolter became more and more frequent, until finally, there was nothing left but empty chambers. A sense of grim determination etched across his features, Doomer turned to the twisted Marine, his eyes reflecting the weight of their dire situation. Placing a hand on the Marine's shoulder, he spoke in a somber tone, "It's truly been an honor serving under you, Jim. I believe this is our last mission together though." The twisted Marine nodded solemnly, his gaze fixed upon the approaching horde of Tyranids and the towering form of the Bio-Titan. Despite the odds stacked against them, a fierce determination burned within him, fueled by the memory of his fallen comrades and the weight of responsibility that now rested upon his shoulders. But as the battle raged on, the voice of Kern, the blood god, began to whisper insidious promises of power and glory in the twisted Marine's ear. The whispers grew louder and more insistent with each passing moment, a seductive temptation laced with promises of untold power and dominion. Kern's voice spoke of the futility of their fight, painting a bleak picture of their inevitable defeat and the meaningless deaths of their comrades. With each whispered word, doubt crept into the twisted Marine's mind, his resolve wavering in the face of Kern's insidious influence. As the last magazine of ammo ran dry, the twisted Marine felt a surge of despair wash over him, the weight of their situation bearing down upon him like a suffocating blanket. With no other options left, he turned to Kern's whispered promises, the allure of power and control offering a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. In a moment of weakness, he made his decision, accepting Kern's offer of submission in exchange for the promise of power and glory. As he surrendered to the blood god's will, a sense of exhilaration washed over him, his doubts and fears replaced by a newfound sense of purpose and resolve. With Kern's whispered promises echoing in his mind, the twisted Marine turned to face the Bio-Titan once more, his eyes burning with newfound determination. With each step forward, he embraced his destiny as Kern's chosen champion, ready to unleash the full fury of the blood god upon his enemies in a relentless tide of carnage and destruction. And as he raised his weapon one final time, his mind consumed by the whispers of Kern, he knew that this would be their final battle together, a savage dance of death and bloodshed that would herald the dawn of a new era of chaos and war. With his decision made and the whispers of Kern's promises echoing in his mind, the Twisted Marine, now fully committed to his new path, turned to face the Bio-Titan once more. His eyes blazed with newfound fervor as he raised his weapon, ready to unleash the full fury of the Blood God upon his enemies. Beside him, Karl and Doomer watched in silent awe as their comrade seemed to be consumed by an inner fire, his once defeated demeanor replaced by a fierce determination that seemed to defy the odds stacked against them. "Jim, what's gotten into you?" Karl asked, his voice filled with concern as he glanced at his fellow Marine. But the Twisted Marine remained silent, his gaze fixed upon the Bio-Titan with a singular focus that brooked no argument. With a primal roar, he charged forward, his chain sword roaring to life as he engaged the monstrous creature in a savage duel to the death. With each swing of his blade, he carved deep gouges into the Bio-Titan's flesh, his every movement a testament to the raw power coursing through his veins. Kern's whispered promises fueled his fury, driving him to greater heights of savagery as he unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks upon his foe. But even as the Twisted Marine fought with all his might, the Bio-Titan proved to be a formidable adversary, its massive form shrugging off his blows with terrifying ease. With each swing of its colossal claws, it tore through the ranks of the Imperium's defenders, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Beside him, Karl and Doomer fought bravely, their bolters roaring as they unleashed a torrent of firepower upon the Bio-Titan. But their efforts seemed to be in vain, as the monstrous creature pressed forward with relentless determination, shrugging off their attacks with terrifying ease. As the battle raged on, the Twisted Marine felt Kern's presence growing stronger within him, his every action guided by the whispers of the Blood God. With each swing of his chainsword, he felt the exhilarating rush of power coursing through his veins, driving him to greater heights of savagery in his quest for victory. But even as he fought with all his might, a sense of unease gnawed at the edges of his consciousness, a nagging doubt that whispered of the consequences of his actions. Deep down, he knew that he had made a pact with a dark and terrible power, one that would demand a heavy price in return for its gifts. And as he continued to battle against the Bio-Titan, his mind consumed by the whispers of Kern, he knew that the true cost of his newfound power had yet to reveal itself. But for now, in the heat of battle, there was only war, and he would fight with all his strength and fury to ensure victory for the Imperium, no matter the cost. As Jim's fervor intensified and the blood rage took hold of him, his mind began to fade into a haze of primal fury. Kern's influence surged through his veins, infusing his body with the raw power of the warp. With each passing moment, his transformation accelerated, his form contorting and warping in grotesque ways. His eyes, nose, and mouth vanished, replaced by smooth, featureless skin that seemed to pulse with dark energy. His once human form stretched and twisted, doubling in height as his muscles bulged with unnatural strength. His fingers elongated into dagger-like spikes, dripping with ichor and menace. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect of his transformation were the 6 massive tendrils of black warp energy that erupted from his back, writhing and pulsating with malevolent intent. Each tendril crackled with dark power, reaching out hungrily towards the surrounding battlefield. As his brothers watched in horror, they realized with dawning horror that their captain had fallen to the corrupting influence of chaos. With grim determination, some of them began to fall back, their faith in their once esteemed leader shattered by the grotesque abomination he had become. But others, consumed by fear and desperation, turned their weapons upon Jim, firing round after round in a desperate bid to stop the rampaging monster that had once been their comrade. But to their horror, their shots seemed to have no effect, the Twisted Marine now seemingly invulnerable to harm as Kern's power coursed through his veins. With a primal roar, Jim turned his attention back to the Bio-Titan, his focus singular and unwavering. His warp-infused blade gleamed with dark energy as he swung it with devastating force, cleaving through the creature's twisted flesh with ease. With each blow, reality itself seemed to shudder and warp, the fabric of causality bending and twisting under the weight of Jim's newfound power. The Bio-Titan roared in agony as it staggered beneath the onslaught, its monstrous form crumbling before the unstoppable might of the warp-infused warrior. But even as Jim laid waste to the Bio-Titan, a sense of emptiness gnawed at the edges of his consciousness, a grim reminder of the price he had paid for his newfound power. Deep down, he knew that he had become something far darker and more terrible than he had ever imagined, a slave to the insatiable hunger of chaos. And as he stood amidst the carnage of the battlefield, his once brothers lying broken and defeated at his feet, Jim knew that there would be no redemption for him. For in his quest for power, he had sacrificed everything, his humanity, his soul, and even his very identity, to become the instrument of Kern's will, a harbinger of death and destruction in a universe consumed by war. With the Bio-Titan vanquished, its monstrous form lying broken and defeated at his feet, Jim felt a surge of dark triumph coursing through his veins. In a display of psychic prowess, he unleashed a deafening roar that reverberated across the desolate battlefield, causing reality itself to shudder and warp in response. The air crackled with tension as Jim's blade descended, cutting through the Bio-Titan's flesh with a sickening crunch. Sinew and bone parted before the unstoppable force of the blade, and with a sickening finality, the creature's head was cleaved in two, its lifeless eyes staring blankly into the void as its twisted form crumpled to the ground. But Jim was not content to simply slay his foe. With a thirst for vengeance that burned like a wildfire in his veins, he reached out with his tendrils, splaying open the gaping wound in the Bio-Titan's neck with grotesque precision. The air was thick with the stench of blood and decay as he plunged his blade deep into the creature's chest, unleashing a tidal wave of warp energy that washed over its twisted form like a dark tide. The Bio-Titan convulsed and thrashed in agony as the warp energy coursed through its body, its flesh twisting and contorting in unnatural ways. With each passing moment, its once fierce visage melted away into a grotesque parody of its former self, its limbs contorted and writhing as if possessed by some malevolent force. With a triumphant sense of victory, Jim watched as the creature rose to its feet once more, its eyes burning with an unholy fire as it turned to face its new master. The ground trembled beneath its weight as it lumbered forward, its every movement a testament to the raw power of chaos. Turning his attention to his former squad mates, Jim extended his tendrils in a twisted gesture of camaraderie, the promise of power and glory dangling before them like a tantalizing fruit. "Join me," he hissed, his psychic voice echoing in their minds with a chilling intensity. "Join me in service to Kern, and together we will reap a bloody harvest that will echo through the ages. Or resist, and your blood will be for the blood god, and your skulls will adorn his skull throne for all eternity." His former squad mates watched in horror as Jim's transformation was laid bare before them, his once noble visage twisted and corrupted by the dark influence of chaos. With each passing moment, the choice before them became clearer: submit to Jim's will and embrace the power of chaos, or face a fate worse than death at the hands of their former comrade turned Daemon Prince. As Jim extended his tendrils in a twisted gesture of camaraderie, offering power and glory to those who would join him, the squad mates were torn. Some, consumed by desperation and the promise of power, began to step forward, their eyes gleaming with a dark fervor as they embraced the corrupting influence of chaos. Others, fueled by righteous anger and loyalty to the Emperor, stood firm, their weapons raised in defiance against their former comrades. The tension in the air was palpable as the two factions clashed, exchanging blows and curses amidst the chaos of battle. Bolter fire erupted, tearing through the air as the skirmish intensified, each side fighting with all their strength and fury. The air filled with the acrid stench of gunpowder and blood as the Marines engaged in a brutal melee. Those who had succumbed to Jim's promises of power fought with reckless abandon, their movements fueled by the dark energies of chaos. Their once noble armor now bore the twisted sigils of corruption, a testament to their descent into darkness. On the other side, the Loyalists fought with grim determination, their hearts aflame with righteous fury. They refused to yield to the temptations of chaos, their unwavering loyalty to the Emperor driving them forward in the face of overwhelming odds. Amidst the chaos of battle, Doomer broke free from the fray, his expression a mask of grim determination as he lunged forward, his weapon raised high. With a roar, he swung his blade at Jim, aiming to end the madness and restore order to their shattered ranks. But before he could land the blow, Carl, consumed by rage and desperation, fired his bolter, the shots tearing through the air with deadly accuracy. With a sickening thud, the rounds struck Doomer in the chest, sending him staggering backwards, blood gushing from his wounds. As Doomer stumbled, weakened by the grievous wounds inflicted upon him, the Chaos Bio-Titan seized the opportunity to strike, its massive form lashing out with a powerful blow that sent him flying through the air. With a deafening crash, Doomer crashed down into an empty Tyranid nest, his body broken and battered as he lost consciousness amidst the wreckage. As Doomer was launched through the air and fell unconscious into the desolate Tyranid nest, the scene of carnage continued unabated on the battlefield. Those who had stood firm against Jim's offer of power found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer ferocity of their corrupted brethren. With merciless efficiency, the Chaos Marines descended upon their loyalist comrades, their once bonded brotherhood shattered by the lure of chaos. Bolter fire and warp-infused blades cut through the air with deadly precision, leaving a trail of blood and gore in their wake. The Loyalists fought valiantly, their defiance a testament to their unwavering loyalty to the Emperor. But in the face of overwhelming numbers and the twisted power of chaos, their resistance proved futile. One by one, they fell beneath the onslaught, their screams of defiance drowned out by the cacophony of battle. Some met their end at the edge of a blade, their bodies torn asunder by the brutal fury of their corrupted brethren. Others were gunned down in a hail of bolter fire, their once proud armor now stained with the blood of their fallen comrades. As the slaughter continued, the air echoed with the manic laughter of the Chaos Marines, their twisted joy at the carnage they wrought a chilling reminder of the depths of their corruption. With each life snuffed out in the name of the Blood God, their power grew, their allegiance to chaos cemented in the blood of their former brethren. And amidst the chaos and destruction, Jim stood tall, his eyes ablaze with the dark fire of Kern's wrath. With each life taken in the name of the Blood God, he felt the power of chaos coursing through his veins, a grim reminder of the price he had paid for his newfound allegiance. As the last of the Loyalists fell, their bodies broken and bloodied upon the blood-soaked ground, Jim turned his gaze to the horizon, his mind consumed by thoughts of the battles yet to come. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there would be no respite from the unending war, no mercy for those who dared to defy the will of the Blood God. Only death, destruction, and the relentless pursuit of power in the name of chaos. As Doomer slowly regained consciousness, the world around him swirled in a haze of agony and confusion. The dull throbbing of pain pulsed through his body, each heartbeat a reminder of the brutal ordeal he had endured. With a groan, he forced himself to sit up, his muscles protesting with every movement. As his senses gradually sharpened, Doomer's eyes fell upon the scene of devastation that surrounded him. The battlefield was a twisted tableau of carnage and horror, the ground littered with the broken bodies of his former comrades. Limbs lay scattered haphazardly, torn from their rightful owners in a frenzy of bloodlust. Heads, some still bearing expressions of shock and terror, others twisted in grotesque contortions of agony, lay severed and discarded like macabre trophies. The air was thick with the metallic tang of blood, mingling with the sickly sweet scent of decay. Flies buzzed lazily around the corpses, drawn by the promise of death and decay. The ground beneath Doomer's feet was slick with gore, the earth stained crimson with the lifeblood of those who had fallen in battle. Nearby, etched into a nearby wall in blood, was a chilling message from Jim, "Glad I could help." The words seemed to leer at Doomer, mocking him with their callous indifference to the suffering that had been wrought. With a heavy heart and trembling hands, Doomer began to move among the fallen, his boots squelching sickeningly in the blood-soaked earth. Each step brought him face to face with the gruesome aftermath of the battle, the sight of mutilated bodies and severed limbs searing itself into his memory like a brand. He reached out with trembling hands, his fingers brushing against cold, lifeless flesh as he searched desperately for any sign of life amidst the sea of death. But it was all in vain. There were no survivors, no glimmer of hope amidst the wreckage of despair. Realizing the futility of his efforts, Doomer's gaze fell once more to his vox, his trembling fingers fumbling with the controls as he called out for rescue. But as he spoke, his vision began to swim, and the world around him blurred and faded into darkness. With one final, desperate prayer to the Emperor upon his lips, Doomer slumped forward, his body collapsing amidst the ruin and devastation of the battlefield. And as the echoes of his plea faded into silence, the desolate wasteland bore witness to the grim aftermath of a battle fought in the name of chaos, its horrors etched into the very fabric of reality. As Doomer slowly blinked his eyes open, he was met with the familiar hum of a ship's engines, the gentle thrumming reverberating through the air around him. With a groan, he attempted to sit up, only to be met with resistance from the restraints that bound him to the medical berth. Panic surged through him momentarily before he remembered the events that had led him here. Before him stood a Medici servitor, its mechanical arms whirring softly as it monitored his vital signs with clinical precision. Behind the servitor loomed a figure clad in the austere robes of the Inquisition, their features obscured by the shadow of their hood. The Inquisitor regarded Doomer with a stern expression, their gaze piercing and inscrutable. "You have much to answer for, Marine," they intoned, their voice a low rumble that echoed through the chamber. "The events of your last mission have raised many questions, and I intend to find the answers." Doomer's heart sank as the gravity of the situation washed over him. The Inquisition was not an entity to be trifled with, their authority absolute and their methods ruthless. He knew that he would have to tread carefully if he hoped to emerge from this interrogation unscathed. With a sense of resignation, Doomer began to recount the events of the mission, his voice steady despite the turmoil raging within him. He spoke of the chaos and bloodshed that had unfolded on the battlefield, of the betrayal of his former comrades, and of the chilling transformation of Jim into a servant of chaos. As he spoke, the Inquisitor listened intently, their eyes never leaving his face. Occasionally, they would interject with probing questions, their inquiries probing the depths of his memory in search of any inconsistencies or falsehoods. Hours passed as the interrogation stretched on, the air heavy with tension and apprehension. With each passing moment, Doomer felt the weight of his words pressing down upon him, the knowledge of the consequences of his actions weighing heavily on his conscience. Finally, the Inquisitor leaned back in their chair, their gaze unwavering as they regarded Doomer with a mixture of scrutiny and suspicion. "You have provided valuable information, Marine," they said, their voice as cold and unyielding as steel. "But know this, the events of your last mission are to remain classified. You are never to speak of what transpired there to anyone, under penalty of severe reprisal." Doomer nodded solemnly, understanding the gravity of the situation. The secrets of the Imperium were not to be taken lightly, and he knew that to betray the trust of the Inquisition was to invite untold horrors upon himself and those he held dear. With a final nod of approval, the Inquisitor rose from their seat, their presence looming large in the cramped confines of the medical bay. "You are dismissed, Marine," they said, their voice a low rumble that echoed with the weight of their authority. "May the Emperor watch over you in the days to come." And with that, Doomer was left alone once more, the hum of the ship's engines the only sound to accompany him in the quiet solitude of the medical bay. As he lay there, his mind whirled with thoughts of the mission, the horrors he had witnessed, and the secrets he now carried with him. But amidst the turmoil, one thing remained clear: he would never forget the events of that fateful day, nor the price he had paid for his service to the Imperium.